And we're sitting here with the Tennessee Holocaust Commission. So let's talk about this. I have a large group of students that I teach at Pellissippi State who think they understand what happened with the Holocaust, but it turns out they think of it as sort of an anomaly almost, that could never happen again, right? That it was strictly German Nazis and Jewish victims, and that was the end of the story. It's a 4.5 year period. What do you think? Do you think it can happen again in some type of form?
Listen, we live in a crazy world. I'll be honest with you, anything can happen. And the problem is that today it's even easier for it to happen because there are weapons of mass destruction. Because they wouldn't have to spend 4.5 years murdering 6 million Jews. They could murder 8 million Jews in Israel with a couple of atom bombs. And there's people who say they want to do it. Listen, this is no joke, you know. You know, the U.S. is playing this pussyfooting with Iran, but the way to deal with Iran is the harshest way possible and to support the people who want to overthrow the mullahs. So, I mean, in Israel, we're worried, of course, but thank God we have an army. Thank God we have an excellent Air Force and very smart people who are running our military. But who wants to be in a position like this? We already went through one Holocaust. And why should anyone else go through it? So that's a concern. It's a concern. The greatest fear is that some terror movement will get its hands on weapons of mass destruction. That's the real threat. But I think that we're not there. Certainly not at this moment. I mean, we're there in the sense that the Iranians are a couple of months away from war. But if we're talking about ISIS and other things like that, that's not the case. But at least not yet. But we have to be aware. I mean, we have to be... Listen, you know what? Sarkozy once said that when Hitler came to power, people laughed at him. Now, there was all the things that he said and all this bravado and all of this. But we paid a price for that neglect, for that refusal or reluctance to take them at their word. So I'll give you an example, 2 examples. One is Hamas, which is the Islamic movement, and which writes plain black on white in its charter that they want to destroy Israel. They want to destroy the state of Israel. Okay, and the Iranians, they're both saying exactly what they feel, exactly what they want to do, and they're not lying. If they were smarter, they wouldn't say it. But they're fundamentalists, so they think that they have to say their truth to the world.
So our students are anywhere from 14 to 19, 20 years old, public school, K-8 to 8th grade to community college.
Yes.
What would you say to those students who say, okay, I understand the scope of the Holocaust, I understand the enormity of the tragedy, but there's nothing I could do? What would you say to those students who think there's nothing they could do?
Okay. In a world in which anti-Semitism is alive and well, and prejudice against minorities is alive and well, I would say to them that everyone has a role to play and to start at home. Make sure that your elected representatives are not racists or are not, supremacists, white supremacists or anything of the sort, and that they're good, honest people. That's step number one. And believe me, if we get that done, things will look a lot better all over the world.
Absolutely. So, and what about our teachers? They're pressed for time increasingly. I know I am as a college professor as well, and they always have to make choices. What do I teach? What do I not teach? How much time should I spend on it? What are the big things they could take away by talking in depth about the Holocaust? What are some of the legacies and lessons that they
Okay, one thing I have to say that most people are definitely unaware of, and that is that every person who was involved in killing operations did not have to participate. Historians have looked all over to see if anyone was ever executed for refusing to kill Jews. And the answer is there's no such case. So what does that mean? That means that people had a choice. Listen, Hitler was elected in free elections. So that says it all. What do you sometimes say? That people get the leaders that they deserve. And Hitler was elected in a democratic election.
Absolutely. And now the last question, I saved this one for last because I know you've been asked this probably more than you can count. These these folks that some of them that are German fascist Nazi war criminals who are being deported from the United States to go stand trial in Germany. People say they're 99, 500 years old. What do you have to say about that?
Listen, you can wake me up in the middle of the night and I'll give you all the reasons. Because I've said, I mean, it's that question hundreds of times. What I say is the following. One is the passage of time in no way diminishes the guilt of the killers. Two, old age should not protect people just because they reach an old age. I mean, it doesn't turn a murderer into a righteous Gentile, right? Three is something emphasized by some. It's all very important. We owe it to the victims and their families to bring the people who turn innocent men, women, and children into victims, to hold them accountable. Four, this sends a very powerful message that if you commit crimes like this, even many years later, you might be held accountable. Five, it's against these trials, helping fight against denial and distortion. Six, these are the last people on earth who deserve any sympathy because they had none for their victims. And what you have to remember is that these crimes are not refusing to help an old lady cross the street. These are very serious crimes. And they didn't commit them at the age of 90. They committed them when they were 28, 29, or 30, or 40, when they were full, at full strength, full energy, and they devoted all that energy to murdering innocent people.
Absolutely. I said that was my final question, but just hearing you speak, I've got one more.
Okay.
What's your final message for students in Tennessee?
Listen, my final message to the students of Tennessee is the same as my final message to students all over the world. And that is that you can change the world, you can make it a better place. So it's important to stick to your principles. Don't give up if things don't go right immediately. There's a lot of bad people out there, I hate to say it, and there's a lot of people who, for their own selfish reasons, are doing the wrong thing. You want to play, in other words, you want to build a world based on justice, based on truth, based on concern for those less fortunate. And that's the best world that there can be. And it's in your hands. I mean, it's not only you personally, it's your friends, it's your society, it's your community, it's your government,